Well, good afternoon, everybody. Certainly, a Saturday evening game was a great victory for us, and the reason why I say that is it was an opening game of conference play, and those are always important wins. UNLV does have good athletes, and they're well coached. And then more so, some of the adversity that we were confronted with a number of new players that were going to be playing in the game. And while we had expected to win, I did not foresee that lopsided win. I think that's, the stars were aligned. We certainly were explosive on defense. We got that turnover margin in our favor again, and we were able to run the football. And the momentum really certainly had an impact. I thought our crowd was phenomenal. I want to really give big kudos to our student body. It's been great to see them show up. And so it was really a great night for Cowboy football. I think we went through the game relatively healthy. If I'd had my druthers, I would have had a bye week before that game. But we're going to take the bye week now, and we will utilize the bye week working on fundamentals. We'll spend time working on San Diego State, and then also with many of our players having a chance to get refreshed. And as the week goes along, I'll probably be able to give you a little bit more accurate information as far as the status of some of those guys who have missed games. But we're in hopes that we're going to have a whole boatload of those guys back in a healthy fashion when we hop on the plane to go out to San Diego. So at this time, I'll open up any questions from the audience or online. Yes?
With that being said, Frank Rowan and Patrick Arnold got the start. What did you see on the film from them? Looked like they had a pretty good outing.
Well, they did for their time. We appreciate their efforts, and they went in and really competed. There's things that they certainly can do better, but for their first opportunity, we're well pleased with what they did. We're in hopes that we'll have Logan and Alonzo back before this next week, but we'll find out a little bit more. But we're really pleased they got some meaningful game experience. Patrick had been playing sprinkled in, but Frank had not been playing, and so to play a game like that against a good opponent, I think is going to prove well for us in the future.
Well, Jordan Murray kind of in the same boat. He stepped in for Tyler Hall, and he did a fantastic job.
Well, your observation is pretty accurate. Jordan had played a little bit in the previous game, just a little bit, and we had seen some good signs. You see some things that are encouraging during practice, but he really came out to compete. I mean, there were times that, if he stands sideways, you can hardly see him. I think he's 155 pounds, but he threw whatever he had out there, and he competed and made some big-time plays. And more than anything else, we saw a competitive nature of him to be able to go out and compete the way he did. And so we were well pleased with him.
Last week you mentioned turnovers, and this week you guys go out and get 3 picks. And when it comes to creating turnovers, is there something you guys can do to create turnovers, or is it just being in the right place at the right time and making the play?
A little bit of both. Certainly putting pressure on an offense poses a challenge, how an offense is going to handle a football. And when you do pressure them, not only pressure them, right away you think of maybe blitzes, but that's not necessarily the case. If the quarterback is under duress, or a running back is running and guys are putting their hats on the football and they're stripping the ball and there's a lot of people around and guys are being really explosive. And then guys executing. Wilson's interception was part of executing a defense. And so there's a combination of both. There's no question. I think we're 7th in the country or 5th in the country in turnover margin, something like that. And as you know, the years we've had good years, that margin has always been up. We're taking care of the football and taking it away. And there's, without question, those takeaways had a profound effect in the ball game. I thought it flipped things around. Yes, Davis.
You mentioned you thought you'd have Tyler Hall. The confident you'd have him back this week. Will he practice this week? Or will you hold him out? Or?
That's yet to be determined. I think he's still in protocol, but some of the signs that we're getting are encouraging. I know he was on the sidelines jumping up and down and wanting to be out there on the field, and those things from my perspective are good, but he's still got to go through the protocol.
Has Logan started in protocol?
Not yet. Yes.
Does Titus Moon remind you at all of a guy who used to run here? Hill?
Well, they have different styles, but I think Titus runs with an angry demeanor, is what I would say. I mean, he runs relentlessly, and he's always, his legs are churning, and sometimes you get a little bit concerned about with that churning that, that ball is going to get exposed, and he did get the ball stripped from him, so that's going to be a learning lesson from him. But, he's come on. He's taking coaching more. It's all new to him as far as his reads. I thought Gordy Haug had done a great job with him during the course of the game on some of his reads. One of his long runs was, a great cut that he made with the instruction that Gordy had given him. But certainly the number of tackles, his yak is really quite special. And, we're glad to have him. And, he's just another arsenal that we have. I don't know. I think he went over 100 yards, and that's really encouraging.
Coach, you talk about competition a lot in terms of the coaches and your assistants and the players. Given the fact that you saw Frank and Patrick play a lot, Jordan Murray play a lot, how much can that just continue to help your squad develop?
Well, depth is always important. I always tell our guys, in Proverbs it says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And every day you go out to practice, when you have more competitive guys out there with a team attitude, guys know that they need to be prepared when they go out to practice, that internal competition is really healthy, and then along with that, just the depth that you have, and that so the depth providing competition certainly is encouraging. However, I will say that some of those spots that we would like more depth we don't have right now, but to see Frank and Jordan Murray and Patrick come in and do the way we did in the game is really, really a bright spot. Yes, Davis.
You mentioned Jordan's competitiveness. What is it specifically about his skill set that you guys are confident to run him out there as a freshman?
Well, some of it was kind of like we didn't have a lot of other options, but he had practiced well. But quite frankly, I mean, if you look at the number of corners that we've got right now compared to where we're at during fall camp, it's significantly different. And so one of the reasons why we double rep and spend a lot of time coaching everybody during fall camp, unlike some other squads, is because injuries are going to happen. And so he showed some good things during practice. He had shown some good things, Davis. But until the bright lights are on, you really don't know how a guy's going to respond, and he has responded very well.
We talked a couple of weeks ago about Braden Smith and the play he made, Texas State getting a pick where he
Right.
came in and filled in. I know he was playing some corner on Saturday. Was that something that you guys just kind of always had that in your back pocket, knowing that he was that versatile, could fill in there? And what did you think of the job he did?
Well, I thought he did well, and we thought he did well at corner. But, however, that was not planned at the beginning of the year. We thought we had quite a bit of depth at corner. And so when we started looking at the depth chart and who's out there, who can play, we made a determination during the course of the week that he needed to get some meaningful reps in practice at corner. As we move forward, we'll make a decision whether to try to rep him at both places, at safety and corner, and just solidify him at one spot. I would say right now, during the course of this week, he'll probably take some reps at both spots. Yes.
First bye week, do you like, Coach, how the schedule kind of broke up with where the buys are going to play? So it's,
Well, I tell you what, I would have given a month's salary to move that bye week up going into this last week. Now I'm loving it where it's at. Coaches are pretty much, and not only myself, but all my colleagues, you kind of have what you have, and the challenges, some of the things that you think are somewhat advantageous. I think to have a bye week right now certainly is very timely. And we're going to utilize that wisely. You want to make sure we term that as a bye week, not an off week, that you're getting things done, you're getting active rest, you're staying strong in the weight room, you're getting healed up, you're working on some fundamentals, you're developing some depth. We've taken a book of what we need to improve on offensively, defensively, and in the kicking game. We're going to work on some of those things as we get ourselves deep into conference play now. We play in a really competitive conference, and so it's great to have a bye week now, especially when we're going to go out and play I think, an excellent San Diego State football team.
Is it nice that it's kind of broken the schedule up in different chunks? Could you play 3 straight and then get
Right.
a bye and finish?
Well, yeah, I like it, and we'll do some recruiting. Certainly some coaches will be out recruiting. I'm going to be departing, doing some recruiting as well, in-season recruiting. It's certainly better. I think one year we had a bye week at the about the very last week, which seemed odd. I think the fact that we have 2 this year I think that's good for college football. When you have young men that, as coaches, you're grinding away, but you fail to realize these guys are 18, 19, 20 years old, and so for them to maybe have a chance to get caught up academically a little bit more, is going to be important as well. Yes.
Are you concerned at all about Cooper, pulling, I think every kick he's missed this year, he pulls to the left?
No. And I want to be real clear that within the operation of, I'm going to be pointed about what I say, and I'm going to hope that you kind of read between the lines. I think Cooper is kicking the ball well, but there's 3 facets in that. There's the kicker, there's a holder, and there's the snapper. And so we've got some work to do with those 3 elements. Well said. You got it. Okay. Yes, Davis.
Trey Smith, he's played 4 games.
Mhm.
If he were to miss the rest of the season, do you know if there's any possibility of a medical hardship, 6th year? Have you guys talked about any of that?
No, we really haven't. I think we're in the midst of just trying to do what we can. We'll see when, but I do know it's going to be quite a ways for him to get back. And, the NCAA right now has got, there's different guidelines in the waiver process. I think if anybody can figure that one out, they can solve the problems we got in Washington, D.C. right now. So we'll move forward. Trey's, he's in a boot. It's just going to take some time. But, I can tell you, Trey has been a great addition to our football team. Many times when you have a guy that transfers in, you don't know how they're going to assimilate in your locker room, and that word of culture is sometimes overused, but that's really important to us, and Trey's been an ultimate team player. Anything else on a bye week? Okay, Keith, you're on the line. Do you have a question?
I do. I'm curious, the governor of California signed into law that Fair Pay to Play Act.
Mhm.
Do you think, and that will begin in 2023, how do you think that will affect college football? Do you have an opinion either way on that?
Well, I certainly do. I serve on their NCAA competition committee, and we had an extended conversation within the Mountain West because many of our schools are from the Mountain West. And so I would be surprised if this whole initiative does not end up in the Supreme Court, settled by people that are far above my pay grade. I think I don't even think it's a complex issue. I think that there's some things. I think NCAA football, there's some great things that we have going on right now. College football's in a good place. And so I do think we want to be sensitive to the student athletes and their needs, but they're here to get an education. And I think sometimes some people on the outside who think they really understand the dynamics of NCAA football are just people on the outside that don't live the life of the student athlete. That's going to probably make some national headlines. Yes, Davis.
Craig, on that same line, if this thing does stick, and obviously California is a huge recruiting resource for you guys, would you think Wyoming would have to come up with some sort of legislation?
I think you're looking at a whole huge dynamic change, and that's where I think it's one of these things. Whenever somebody has an initiative that they think is a really good idea, they don't see the full complexities. While I'm personally not completely happy with everything the NCAA does, there's a reason why we're part of this organization. It's a voluntary organization. Schools can either choose to be part of the NCAA or not. And the NCAA has some guidelines, and one of them is amateurism and how they view that. And so I just think that there's not going to be a quick fix on this. I think it's going to go out quite a while. I do know this is that what's going on with the student athlete right now, I think each year their benefits that they're getting are significantly being improved. The academic support, the cost of attendance, the student welfare, assistance funds, all these things. And sometimes what people see too, they're looking at a college football player or men's basketball player. What people may not realize is we have 400 some student athletes, and how you grapple with all that. It's a complex issue, and so I think we're in a good place. And so while I may not disagree with some of the maybe the initial thoughts on some people on the outside looking in, but it'd be interesting to how many people that are passing these proposals in a state legislative body have ever even dealt with college athletics, even understand college athletics. And so we're striving to do more. I know that there's more funds than there ever has been, and I also know college football is more popular than there ever has been. Okay. Thank you very much.